everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of our breakout session here. I'm Nick Logue, and this is, of course, Nolan, who you heard from this morning. He had wonderful things to say. Thank you, Nolan. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Nolan. And the official title of our breakout session is Stream This, Podcasting and Live Streaming. And so we're here to chat a little bit about those things, and maybe give you a world. So, you know, I've been emceeing the whole time, so just real quick, so I'm Nick, I'm the theater professor here, right? But I also have had a weird career in creative media as a game designer, right? And that's changed a lot in recent years. So I don't do that much game design anymore. They keep me pretty busy here on campus. But at the same time, I'm on sabbatical right now, which means it's like a paid vacation from my job to do research. And so what I've been doing on sabbatical is I've been looking into how the UH Foundation raises money. The UH Foundation is our nonprofit that helps the entire UH system out with special projects. And the way they raise money tends to be very face-to-face sort of gala events and gatherings and things like that. And so my sabbatical project is to help them research how to better raise money online for things, It's because a lot of the perspective of people just don't want to put on pants and fancy clothes in order to donate, right? Young people want to watch a video, understand what a project is, and then click a link and give $20, $50, $100 to something, right? Crowdfunding. How many of you are aware of what crowdfunding is, right? Raise your hand. Everyone knows what GoFundMe is, or Indiegogo, or Kickstarter, or any of those, right? So my sabbatical project is looking at how to do those kinds of campaigns for special projects for the schools, where we can raise money. For example, I raise money every year to take 10 of our students to England, right? And so we were able to pay all the expenses of the trip except their airfare. That's mostly because I just don't want to be a travel agent, right? I have to book everyone's plane tickets for them. And we raise money all sorts of ways, but I do a lot of it on social media. So a lot of it on social media, I ask people when we do good asks and we get funds in, and we're able to take 10 of our best and brightest theater students to work with the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford-upon-Avon and work with some of the top conservatories or professional actor training companies in London every year. And so we're looking at how to translate those social media skills and use things like live streaming to help raise funds for our foundation and for other community projects that might need help with things. So I used to write for Dungeons and Dragons long ago, and I write for Pathfinder still. Yes, I've worked. Who's played Pathfinder? Who's played Dungeons and Dragons? Okay, I always like to know if anyone plays Pathfinder. So that's great. And I write for a slew of other games as well. There's a game called Fragged Empires, which is a sci-fi RPG, right? That I'm working on a project for them right now. And a bunch of interesting things that I do. I've worked from video games, but only in designing like narrative and character. I don't code. And I don't have a lot of the tools that you students need now, right? Because they weren't tools when I was growing up. Like like CAT, the internet was not a thing really when I was becoming a human being. So it's sort of been tagged onto my life later. You guys are well poised to use all these tools in your day-to-day life, which is really cool, right? So that trick is, I know. Shanika talked about it in excellent terms. I think I said something about it as well. The real trick is just to make that transition from being a consumer, right, someone who's just scrolling all day long, right, to being a producer or an interactor, right, or an influencer, someone who's engaging others online, right, and that will be a good tool for you in your creative work or your personal life as you see fit, right. So today we're going to talk about podcasting and live streaming. Nolan, do you want to go first and talk about maybe podcasting and YouTube? And then my experience with live streaming is pretty weird, so maybe I'll go after Nolan, if that makes sense. Because
now I'm intrigued. I want you to go first.
Do you want me to go first?
Weird.
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, if you want. Do you guys want to hear about weird stuff?
Yeah.
I'm not telling. That was not enough. Do you want to hear about weird stuff? All right. We'll hear about weird stuff. So I think like Nolan, I get, my brain's always firing in all these angles all the time. I think I get one idea, and then my thing, when you were talking about how you think, okay, how do we then bring in this, is I hate missing an opportunity, right? So when I have an idea for something, I want to make sure I'm pulling in every resource I can, right? And making sure that I'm pulling in the entire community to be involved with it. And so that involves often having to engage with a lot of different tools, right? So until quite recently, I was basically like a Luddite. Technology was an anathema to me. This is my first ever smartphone. And I got it in January of this year. Yeah, so I was that flip phone guy, the guy who pulls out the flip phone and like sends a text with his thumbs like a crazy person. Yeah, that was me until just a couple months ago. But what happened was last semester, actually over the summer, we had one of our very fantastic students, a young man named Brendan DePaula, and he auditioned, he was one of Shiggy's students long ago, yeah? He auditioned for one of the top drama schools in the world. They audition maybe 1,200 people a year, and they only take 16 people on their course, right? So they take almost less than 1% of the people who audition for the course. And he got a spot on the course, which we were amazed with. Yeah, he went on our England trip, and he auditioned for this course at East 15 Acting School, a very, very difficult course to get into. And they took him on the course, but of course now he has to pay for it, right? So that there's always that. So what I decided was we wanted to help him pay for it. And we wanted to find an interesting way to do that. And so what we did was, the first step in this process is that I met with Brandon and I pretended to be really depressed, and that like social media was depressing me and the internet was depressing me, right? And we had a friend of ours do that as well, and we convinced him to do a media blackout. Yeah, so we convinced him to basically like uninstall all of any app that he can go online with, and only use his official email, but actually don't surf the internet at all, and don't go on Facebook or Instagram or any other, any other social media platform, right? So that was the first instance, which is me tricking him, yeah? And I do that for a living. I'm a theater practitioner. We just trick you into believing we're like the king of Denmark for a while or whatever, right? That's our job, yeah? So we tricked him into a media blackout, and then we launched this project where we did a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter was to produce a short film that would be filmed in one shot, in one day, and the main actor would have no idea he's in the film until he shows up. So that was the concept, right? And it was going to be an action film with like fight scenes and chase scenes and stuff, yeah? But he's going to have no idea that that's happening until he arrives, yeah? So that was the concept of the Kickstarter. And then we live streamed it, yeah? We are producing a final film, but the real event was the live streaming of it, right? So we live streamed it on Facebook Live. And then everyone who backed the Kickstarter is going to get a digital copy of the finished edited product as well, that our cinematographer and editor are putting together, right? So as you may have guessed, Brandon was the poor hapless fool who was going to star in this movie without being aware that he was going to star in this movie. So what I did was, I'm a stage combat choreographer and a teacher of stage combat. So I teach people how to fight safely on stage and for TV and film, right? That's mostly what my career was when I was an actor in the theater world. So what I did was I then tricked Brandon again. I told him that I have to produce this massive portfolio of fight work in order to get my senior instructor status, yeah, with Dueling Arts International, the body that I'm an instructor with, yeah. I didn't have to do that. I actually had already made senior instructor at that point, but he didn't know that. So I told him I need a bunch of trained fighters, because he's one of my students, he's very well trained to fight on stage and screen, to basically be in my portfolio. And then him and all of the other co-stars that he didn't know were going to be co-stars, he thought they were just volunteering to help me with my project, came and trained all these fight scenes, right? So we trained him in like 4 massive fight scenes. And then, well, some of them were just one person versus him, but we had some group fights as well and stuff. So we trained him in those fight scenes. And then so he learned them by muscle memory, he could do them. And then we filmed the training as well. And I'd be like, hey, for this, you're playing this character. And so we had him like dress up, as the main character. We filmed him on location, but he didn't know about that, right? And then on the day, I weirdly asked him to wear the same outfit he had worn for all of the filming of the fight scenes, because we were going to do some more takes after we had lunch. Yeah, that way we can edit it all together, see, yeah. So now he still did all the fights on the day, which was hilarious because he's awesome, right? But in case it didn't go great because he didn't know he was going to do them, we had pre-filmed some of the fights. That was the only thing we pre-filmed. And I asked him to wear, we were taking him to lunch to celebrate him going away for his conservatoire degree. But he showed up at lunch, and then during lunch, like me and my buddy Alex, who's another theater instructor here, confessed to him that actually he wasn't going to school. We tricked him, yeah. East 15 Acting School isn't a school at all. It's a secret academy where they train people to be secret agents for the crown, yeah, for the queen. Yeah, and it's actually a secret order of knights, yeah, that they're knighted, and they fight crime and do all this stuff. And we said, look, we're not supposed to tell you any of this. However, this mastermind called the Nightingale has descended on Hawaii, and they're going to destroy Hawaii, by the end of the day today if we don't find them and stop them, right? And then so what followed was him, basically we took him all over the island to all the theaters he had worked in over the past like 5 years when he was training here. And he got to like have scenes with all of his favorite actors, his favorite co-stars that he had done shows with all over the island in the context of this hilarious, goofy, live streamed thing, right? And then he still doesn't, he knows we're filming him now, but he doesn't know why, right? Like we just started this thing. So he's like, I guess this is like a game, right? Like this is like a live action role playing game, which he does a lot of, and we've done with him, right? So he's like, cool, we're playing a live action role playing game for some reason, they're filming it, I guess, right? And then so he finally finished up here, actually right across the hall in the cafeteria. That was where his last scene was. And to disarm the bomb, the MacGuffin, you know, doomsday device, he had to like enter this password or whatever. And when he entered it, the Kickstarter video started playing, right? Along with the amount of money we had raised for him over the past month, which was a little over $7,000, which paid for his whole housing for the first year that he's on the course, right? So that's my goofy, weird experience with live streaming, right? So it's more of like a weird interactive theater, live action role playing, hoodwinking one of your favorite students, and then you know, live streaming it all in order to raise funds on Kickstarter for him to pay for his school project. Yeah. So that's really it. So that's the only. Yes, sir.
So you described the storyline, but what about the technical aspects to make sure that what you're watching can be heard and seen in a way that is visually and auditorially stimulating?
So what we did was we had we do some different things. In fact, we had 3 principal cinematographers who followed us around from location to location, streaming live as they did so, right? And so they had decent cameras with decent sound on them, with decent microphone, so they were able to record things live. We also had, for a couple of the big scenes, we had cameras set up, and we had mics set up, for those scenes, like the ones that were happening inside theater spaces. So we could get slightly better quality for those big sort of keystone scenes. And then there's a big shooting action sequence that I'm sure my dean's loving hearing about all this right now, that we did on campus with like guns and stuff, that we of course asked permission from security and everyone for, all along these pillars actually, right along outside here, right? And so we had about like 20 people dressed up like sort of terrorists, you know what I mean, with like fake guns, jump out, and he mowed them down, you know, with like a paintball gun that wasn't loaded with paintballs, just the compressed air kind of thing, right? And we used drones for that. So we had help from a local company that produces drone videos, much like Kalea that's here now, right? And they had 3 drones, and they filmed it with drones, as well as the cinematography team running along behind and capturing it all.
Well, I'm confused because the live stream to me seems that you can see it live as it's happening.
Absolutely.
When you're dealing with multiple sources of material, how do you see all of that simultaneously?
We just had them, we had a secret Facebook group for people who had backed the project, and so they streamed right to Facebook Live through all the different sources. So if you were watching it at home, you could just flick through, you could just scroll through as these new things were popping up and watch them if you wanted to. So that was how we did it, and then we also, just to mention all the technical aspects, we also, for especially that long gun fight scene, we slapped a GoPro on Brandon's chest as well. So we have goofy footage of him like running around and doing stuff. So I believe the GoPros we didn't live stream, and there were a couple things we didn't live stream. I think we live streamed 2 or 3 of the camera sources each scene, if that makes sense, And the others we were recording for the final product, which is the edited film,
And how did you set up the promotion for that so you could get the audience?
So I promoted it on Facebook mostly, and through Kickstarter. Kickstarter is pretty good at promoting things for you if you know what you're doing. And also just through the community, right? Because everyone knows it. The great thing about Brandon is, of course we raised money for him. It was a fun day for him as well, and he was very moved. He cried like a tiny little baby at the end, which I made fun of him for, right? Which was really nice. But on top of that, it also brought the entire theater community together, because he had worked with almost every theater company on the island over the course of his time here. So they helped promote it as well. So it really became quite the community event, which was fun, centered around doing a good deed for someone who has no idea it's being done for them until the end of the event. These are great questions. So any other questions about this project? And then we'll let Nolan say some things too.
This is beyond basic for your course, but like when you're doing it, and you're live streaming, so I'm the viewer and I'm going, yeah, it's live, hey man, come and watch this, we're sitting down. And so like you see, you go from this side to that side, and one side, at least one side is on the theaters. So they're already mic'd up, already set.
Right.
So is it as simple as, you get there, you just like really plug something in and you're using their mics, and you come from outside to, that mic there, because they're already set, they're waiting for you.
Yeah, so what we did was, they would just start a new stream on the secret group on Facebook, right? A new Facebook Live for those cameras whenever it changed perspective, if that makes sense. And then, it's live, but also, of course, it's recorded on Facebook. So afterwards, people spent the whole day, people who had backed it or really invested in it because they knew Brandon or were psyched about the project, right? Spent hours afterwards just watching all the individual streams, right? Because they're all different things, which is kind of fun. Yeah, so good questions. Yeah, excellent. Cool, any other questions about this? And then we'll let Nolan talk a bit about both podcasting and live streaming. Yes, sir.
So you told Brandon what the plot was, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't occur to him that he was being recorded at all?
No, he knew he was being filmed, because weirdly he was at lunch with us. And then he went to the bathroom and came back, and some of our friends who are local filmmakers were in the room with the cameras to stream him. And I was like, come in here. And it was as we talked to him afterward, he was like, I thought you were gonna yell at me or something. He thought that we were filming him because it was a practical joke or something along those lines. But he's an actor and a really well-trained improviser, right? So he just went with it. He was like, oh, okay. I was like, hey, we have to talk to you, sit down. And he was like, oh, okay. He sat down and then we explained the plot to him and he was like, I'm ready to help, we gotta stop the nightingale, right? He was right in, right? So it might not work with everybody, but with him it was a great opportunity because he's a fantastic actor and a fantastic improviser, right? So he just jumped right in. In fact, he was much better than me. I was with him through the whole thing, and I was so nervous about all the other aspects of it that we were trying to do, but that was the worst acting I've ever done in my life, I think. He blew me off the screen in it, which was actually even more fun.
It was good, you guys were all good.
No, he was great though. He was on it. Yeah, he was really making a lot of great moments happen, which was really fun. Yeah, so he knew about it, he knew we were filming him, but he had no idea why until the very end of it when he unlocked the computer and the Kickstarter video started playing, and he realized that we had done this to raise money for him. That's why we had him do a media blackout and stuff. And he never found out, which was awesome. The parents made sure he didn't find everyone. Great, good question. Any other questions, guys? Yes, sir.
How would you improve your technical aspects? How would you improve?
So we would do so many things better, and we will if we do something like this again. Yeah, does that make sense? Because like Nolan and some other people hit on next door, we just jumped in, really. Yeah, I literally so my big thing is I do this to everybody all the time. I see my dean back there, she knows. I'm like, hey, we're gonna do this really complicated, hard thing that none of us have ever done before, and let's do it in a month. Right? And then they're like, well, let's not. And I'm like, it's too late, I've announced it. Right? And so people are like, oh no, right? So it turned out to be a great thing, but it was definitely a learn as you go experience for everybody. In fact, even our cinematographers didn't really have any live streaming experience. Luckily, we got some help from David Fry, who's helping facilitate this whole conference, because he was aware of how live streaming works and whatnot. So he sat with me and our cinematographers and talking about the process, and we said, okay. Robert Barclay, who is one of our English professors here, who runs the film club as well and helps out tremendously with our creative media programs here, loaned us a bunch of camera equipment. Kimberly Bassford, who's our creative media and journalism professor, loaned us a bunch of camera equipment. And I'd never use it. I'm a stage actor. I've done very little TV film work, right? So we just muddled through. It was kind of fun, right? I learned a lot about what Shanika said next door, right? Which is just editing is super important. We filmed the Kickstarter video, and I was like, man, this is going to be a disaster. After we filmed it over 3 hours, and I went, this is just going to look awful. And our editor was so amazing that when I saw the Kickstarter video, I went, this is great. I was like, how did they do that? You know what I mean? They turned all of our sort of ridiculous shots into this thing that made sense and was actually kind of fun to watch and funny, right? And help promote the event. So that's a great just side takeaway from this. Editing is huge. Right? Editing is where all the magic happens, I think, at least in my limited experience of working for screen. Because that's really where you decide exactly how the story is being told, right? Because you're filming it, you're getting raw footage, but it's the editing process where you can really make it sing, right? So it's super interesting. Yeah. Good. So we would do so many things different. I think one thing we would do different is we would probably, even though it was live streamed and improvised, we would probably rehearse more. You know what I mean? Some of the scenes and whatnot. There were a few of the actors who were in on the thing, but really hadn't had a lot of rehearsal time, and so they were the story points to them were sort of nebulous. They were like, I think there's a bad guy or something. You know what I mean? They're like, so we had to improvise, like, yeah. You know, we pretended one of them was drugged because he was kind of had no idea what was going on. That was kind of the fun, you know, of the event though. And then like, you know, planning logistics would be. I would do like a dry run of just where the camera crews are and stuff, because there was one scene where one of the main camera crews was confused and wasn't there. And so luckily we caught it with, we had the 2 cinematographers following us the whole time. They were able to capture it, but it was just on their little handhelds, and it was a scene we would have really liked to have had better recording for the final product for it. We'll see how it turns out. You know, it'll be done in like a couple weeks, right? So we'll see how it all turned out. But things like that, just dry runs, know what you're doing, and you know, we kind of winged it a lot with this, and so it all worked out fantastic. But it could have been a lot smoother for all parties involved. But that's the nature of working with me on anything, I think. Anyone who's worked with me in the room will attest. We're like, we're doing this. Let's go. All right, let's see what happens. Make mistakes faster. Take that from me, but take from Nolan. Know what you're doing, right? Research the technology and the tools and use them well. Yeah. But mostly, I was only able to do that because we were able to build a good community around this. That makes sense. People volunteered a lot of their time to be involved because they love Brandon and they love the idea of it. They thought it was a really interesting idea. And certainly it's something that's never been done before, right? They were like, we've never heard anything like this. So it actually pulled a lot of people in, which was good. Let's hold there for a sec. And Nolan, why don't you share with us a little bit more about your YouTubing experiences and also your podcasting experiences, and that way we can open up the questions to those arenas as well. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Well, I'll start, since we're talking about streaming, I'll kind of start off with that. And how I got started in streaming, originally, I think everything that you do has to have a purpose. You have to understand what you're trying to get out of it. So originally, one of the things that I do is that I'm a wedding MC, or a live event MC. And so I did a lot of wedding MCing. And so what I wanted to do was communicate to my audience, which is all my Facebook friends and stuff, that this is what I do, rather than just saying I MC weddings and hoping somebody will know that and maybe pass along the information. I wanted to take them on an experience because I feel like streaming and Facebook Living is all about interacting and creating an experience. So something that you can do that either inspires conversation or that I can provide them with something that is entertaining enough where they're going to stick around. Because it's one thing to take a picture of me here with Nick and Nick. Look, at the conference and going to talk to these students about creative media. But it's one thing to actually then have them experience it with me, where if I were to set up the camera and they can hear what I'm talking about and such. So my idea was to live stream before I go on to MC, so I can share with them, like, hey, here's the venue we're at, the Royal Hawaiian, and as I'm explaining, like, this is the type of food you're getting, so they feel like they're with me. So what I was trying to do is replicate as if I have 10, 15, 100 people with me and showing them, like, hey, experience this with me. And as I'm doing it, I'm also trying to narrate it as well, so it's not just boring, where I've seen live streams, and for some it works, but for me, I thought if I was watching, I'd click off pretty quickly. If I'm just seeing this, and go, all right, when we're at community college, it's like, okay, I get the idea. But if I have, give them a reason to continue to watch and listen, so the way I can do that, aside from I've shown them what's going on, but if I can articulate things that are going on, and it doesn't even have to be like, this is a microphone, this is wire. It's like I can share what I'm feeling. Like, okay, so this is the story of how I got involved with this particular wedding. These are the people that I'm going to be emceeing with. And it's so funny, when I first talked to them, they were so nervous about, like, so that now I'm engaging with them, something entertaining or of value, information. And the other thing is, the reason why people live stream is because then you can also have people who are watching interact with you. And so from that, then they ask questions or make comments, and then so then I can go off of that. So for me, it was a lot of improvisational type of thing, but also it played to my skills of, as an MC, I have to go with the flow, I have to lead something, I have to carry you through an experience, and that's kind of what live streaming was for me. As far as, I'm the type that gets really bogged down by getting nervous about, is it perfect? So when I thought of, here's a great way of promoting myself, live streaming. oh, how do I do that? I gotta have the right equipment. Is this microphone good enough? Do I need a stabilizer? How do I make the image perfect? All of it. That's when I start to go, okay, I want it to be perfect from the start. Wait till I figure it out. And if I kept on that kind of mindset, I wouldn't have done it. And the thing about social media is the audience is very forgiving because they know you're going through it, you're learning it, and they like that journey of starting to see you improve and get more comfortable. So I had to make that uncomfortable decision of like, it's gonna be shaky, I'm gonna have technical difficulties. What happens when it says the connection is bad? So like, my first live stream was really off. I did like 3 takes because in the middle of it, it was like cut out, and you can see me going like, oh no, it says it's locked. Can anybody hear me? I don't, what does this mean? Okay, let me see how I can turn the camera around. Okay, you know, I'm just gonna cancel this. So if anybody's listening, sorry, I'm gonna start it up again. And then I can come back on. Okay, so if you didn't catch me the first time, I'm here to do the whole thing over. And then I didn't know that it automatically posted on my timeline, so I got to see all 3 takes later on in the evening. Oh my gosh, it's the exact same thing in each video. But if I had thought of, like, if it's not perfect, they're never gonna watch again, that was all squashed because the next time I did a live stream, people came back on again. So they're very forgiving. And the whole strategy I had was that as I live streamed, that kind of gets them interested in what's happening. But I'm not going to live stream while I'm emceeing the wedding. Right. So I would take like times, I would take pictures, which the quality is better. I can frame my shot. I can actually be real specific with what I'm showing. And then as I post, now they've already understood and they're invested in the story. And they go, ooh, he had shown, like I had shown like spreads. Like this is the dessert table. It's really amazing. All kinds of cool desserts. But now, after I'm done with the stream, I take up these close-up beautiful pictures, and they go, I had no idea that they had chocolate cake that looks like, you know, flowers. Like, that's so cool. So, because now they are connected to it. So that was the first experience with live streaming for me. It was just my phone. I didn't have any microphone and stuff. All the things that I thought I should have had, I said, you know, I just got to do it. And as I did it, I learned. It's kind of a guess and check kind of thing. And then as I started to want to learn how to do it more effectively and with more purpose, that's when I did research and you know, would go on Google and find out tips for success from successful streamers and what they did. And all of them kind of say the same, like, these are all tips, but until you do it and knowing who your audience is, what they will want, like, you can't like have it all perfect. So here's just some stuff to think about, and as you go along, you can learn. And then, so what happened recently with my current streaming, I guess, product is originally I said, I want to get my YouTube channel going, and I want people to be able to connect to me. And originally my hope was, if I ever want to be discovered, okay, so this, I feel bad. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you a story, but that's kind of my thing. But I said, I want to get into more acting on a national level. And I watched an interview with John Chu, who's the director of Crazy Rich Asians. And he was talking about how he discovered the main actor, I forgot his name, but the main star. And that actor, yeah, Edward Golding. Henry Golding. He said he didn't really have any kind of like acting experience prior, and he didn't even audition for that role. He was like doing some kind of thing in Australia where he was like hosting some kind of thing, and his doctor or something knew John Chu, and he knew about the project. He said, no, my patient is, I think he'd be really good for your project. You should go look him up. And so John Chu actually just like Googled him and was able to find some like YouTube stuff of him doing random things. And he said, I think this guy has personality and just, I have a good feeling about it. And he tried to connect with him. And Henry Golding originally was like, movie, I'm not an actor, I've never done a movie acting stuff like that. I think you got the wrong person. But long story short, he eventually was convinced, and now he's like a huge movie star for that. And I was like, that's so cool. And it's because there's some kind of content online about him. So I said, I want to be in a movie, and that would be really awesome. And aside from me doing the proper routes of auditioning and having my agent put me out there, I was like, I would love to make sure that I have, because that's, I think, what people do. Even when you're applying for a job, what do the business owners do? They usually go online and try and find out research about you, right? So I said, I want to have content that I have control over to show my abilities and my personalities that hopefully maybe John Chu will see that and make me the main actor in his movie. So I was like, I gotta do that. And what's the most searchable thing is YouTube right now. So I said, let me go put out a show on YouTube. And so my idea, I was like trying to think of what I could do, and I made sure that the purpose of it was to have me be my authentic self. So rather than me thinking, what's a great show that's gonna get tons of views, and how can I write the script and all that, I said, that's a lot of work, I don't have that kind of time, and that's not fulfilling the purpose that I want. I'm not trying to get a huge audience, I'm not trying to build this massive audience, I just want some kind of online database of me. And so I said, well, the most authentic and easy real thing I can do is just a vlog where I put up the camera, talk to it, and that can show my personality. And what is the thing that I feel strongly about is my ability to tell stories. So, and most of them are about me, so because that's the stories I know. So that's what it started out with. It was like I had a camera, and I would just push record and just talk for hours, and then I'd give my wife all the footage and say, hey, there might be something in there. Can you cut it together and make a nice, concise, entertaining video? And she would be like, oh my gosh, an hour? Okay. And she would thankfully find some kind of something of value in it, and was able to cut it down to 10, 15, 20 minutes and stuff. But then she started to say, we're getting really busy on our business side, where the things that actually make money. And so this is taking me a day or two to edit, where I could be using that time to edit actual paying customers' videos. So she's like, what else can we do? Because we don't want to lose, you're actually, the people who are watching your videos are finding great purpose with it and great value. And I was getting a lot of feedback, and I was like, yeah, this is turning out to be something way cooler than what I envisioned. So I said, I really like this platform where I'm able to share these stories about myself, my insecurities and fears and stuff. And a lot of people were starting to relate to that. They were saying, I thought you had it, everything was great, and you're super confident. And I was like, no, I'm terrified, and I'm super insecure. And they're like, that really resonated with me because I have those same fears and concerns. And to hear you share about it in front of a worldwide audience, makes me feel less insecure about my problems, and gives me inspiration to try to fix it or to embrace that part of me. So I said, I gotta keep this going, because there's please keep doing it. So that's when I got into streaming again, and I said, well, here's an opportunity where it goes up, I don't have to edit it really, and it puts pressure on me to actually be mindful. And when I would just ramble on for an hour and tell my wife, hey, figure it out, I was like, now this is live, raw, unedited. I have to be purposeful with what I'm talking about and be mindful that I can't just take 10 minutes and go, what else should I say? Which is what a lot of the footage my wife had to look at. That's great. That's awesome. And I think it really resonated with my audience, who the thing that they gravitated towards was that I'm being real, I'm being authentic. And I was like, what's more real and authentic than me just being live and unedited? And so what I wanted to make sure of, though, was because I had given them that experience of it being edited and lighted well and with a good camera, that if I just go straight into on my phone streaming, okay, let's talk about stuff, I feel like the drop-off would be so different. So I went on the path of trying to figure out, okay, I know that people can live stream using a DSLR camera, the lighting can be nicer, the feed quality is better, have a microphone and be good. And so I did some research, sought out the help of a friend who had some background in streaming and stuff, and I learned the different programs that allow me to connect my DSLR camera to my laptop to live stream, and then that way I can use a good camera, and I can connect my microphone to the camera so that it's clear audio. And then he put me onto this other program which allows you to stream on multiple platforms. So I can now do this, use that same stream.
Which program?
So it's OBS. Oh no, Restream. Restream.io is the website. And the cool part is it's free. Cool. So OBS is the program that converts the DSLR footage into a live stream. Because if you were to just plug in your camera into the laptop and say, okay, Facebook, I'm going live. It won't be able to recognize your camera. So for some weird reason, I try to figure out why. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't like to read, so after about 5 minutes, I forget it. So this OBS program, which you can also download for free, and it's really cool because it's almost like a little creative studio because you can get different types of input into it. So I can have my laptop camera be one source of input. I can have it show my actual desktop so that I can share my screen of what I'm seeing on my laptop. I can have my DSLR. I can have multiple inputs go into this program, and then you can either cut to different cameras or screens, or you can like make little screens and have all kinds. So it's really popular amongst like video game streamers because you can share your screen of what you're playing on your video games. You can have your camera showing you talking to the camera, and all. So it's really cool. It went far beyond what I was expecting to do. But what I've been able to do is that it even has an opening card. You can have like opening credits. You can have opening video. And you get it's basically a television studio for streaming. And I haven't mastered it well, so it's a really sad looking like opening text screen that just says like gonna start soon. Stay tuned. And it looks all dumb. But I could actually like spend some time and like make a graphic and even have a video. And be like, we're gonna start soon. Stay tuned. But going back to the whole moniker of just do it, and as you improve, your audience will enjoy the ride with you. So this OBS system will help you kind of create that studio, and then Restream is the thing that will then shoot it out to all of the different platforms. They currently don't have a way to do it to Instagram Live, so I'm pretty active on Facebook and Instagram. So my YouTube audience isn't as large as my Facebook and Instagram, so I thought that's why I wanted to do it on multiple platforms. Because I thought, well, if I just try to build up my YouTube platform and tell people on Facebook, hey, I'm going on YouTube Live, go there, I'm probably going to lose a lot of them because it's like, oh, so many steps. But if I can just say, hey, whether you want to join me on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live, and hopefully in the future Instagram Live, like I'm going on 20 minutes, join me there and let's talk about stuff. So Restream will then share it all, and the cool part about it is that now that I'm live, I feel like my thoughts are way more concise, and I'm still able to share my stories. But the cool part now is that the experience I used to have, which is after I put out my edited video, and I would get the responses, and people would share things or ask questions. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had known that. I would have loved to talk and continue that conversation out there. Now I'm getting that live. So I have my wife who hates me on camera, so she's in this tiny little box because she's on the laptop webcam, but she's in a tiny little box, and I always call her like my Robin to my Howard Stern, because if you ever watch her, listen to Howard Stern, you have Robin in the back. Maybe you should talk about this. Oh, that's a great idea. So she always will keep me on track, and she's also monitoring the live feed, and when there's comments that come up or questions, she's like, Nick has a question for you. He wants to know the story that you're talking about. What were you feeling? Oh, that's a great question. I was really nervous, So it actually adds more interaction. Something else I learned too, as far as like suggestions, is that in order to keep your audience, they just want to know that you're. Like, the purpose of them commenting is they want to be acknowledged and they want to be a part of it. So at first I thought I can't be distracted, because if I say shout outs to every person who comes on, then it's going to be like the whole stream is about me saying, hey Mike, hey Jane. It's like the audience is like, this is so boring. So, but if you don't acknowledge it, they don't feel like they're part of it. So,
Happy medium.
yeah. So what my wife does is she kind of notates it and stores it for me. And she's also interacting too, which I know a lot of you won't have the luxury of having my wife work for you. But what I would do if she wasn't there is kind of bank it and then complete my story or thought, and then turn to it, and then I can review and say, oh, so-and-so did it, and at least acknowledge them and say hi, and then if they have any questions that stand out to me, interact with them, just so that they know he is paying attention. I might not get to every one of them, so for those who aren't interacting, at least they're not like just bored by me answering all these unnecessary questions, but others are like, hey, he might get to mine, and he is paying attention, and he does care that I'm watching and listening and stuff. So those are the experiences I've had. I've done 6 or 7 so far. And as far as promoting it and stuff, what I do is I try my best, and sometimes I fail at it. It's like days leading up to it, I'll put out posts on Instagram, Facebook, letting them know, like, hey, tune in, and I have a specific time, and I call it either lunchtime live or dinner time live, and the idea is like, hey, grab your lunch, let's have lunch together, and let's talk about some cool stuff. And so they know it's either 12:30 lunchtime, or if it's dinner time live, it's at 7:30. You don't literally have to eat lunch or dinner with me, but and then I'll say, like, remind them so that they know that they can at least be accessible to these platforms. And sometimes I'll even, and it's not just posts, sometimes I'll Instagram a story, a video, and like, so this last one, I had set up a green screen shoot for a client, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna leave it up and shoot my live from that. So then I did an Instagram story, and I was like, hey, just remind you, 30 minutes at 7:30 p.m., we're gonna do dinner time live. And this is the setup. It's a green screen, and I kind of explain a story. I was like, so that's gonna be our background for today, so tune in, and all that stuff. So that's how I kind of promote it. Again, the focus isn't necessarily to grow my audience, but to just have meaningful, interactive content with my audience. And if it grows naturally, which I hope it will, great. If it doesn't, I know that wasn't my purpose. Some people want to grow their audience, and there's different strategies.
And for some questions, rather, from you guys. And we'll just head to lunch a little bit later. I'm sure there'll still be food for you all. So yeah, Doc, you had a question first, and we'll make our way down. Go for it.
It seems that your original intent as an actor was almost, I don't understand why it was different from having an IMDb reel,
Right.
because you're already an actor. But it sounds like you wanted something bigger or longer than the reel. That's
Yeah,
more content than a reel, sure.
that's a great
was it
point.
more was the content?
Well, so there's 2 things. It satisfied my creative hunger to create content and express myself as an artist, and I have control. Whereas my IMDb reel, it's like just highlights of stuff that I've done for other people. And if I'm looking at the competition, like, everybody has a demo reel, and everybody has an IMDb page. So if I am a casting director or director, if I go, oh, what's different about him, and all I see is this little short cameo role on Hawaii Five-O, me going like, that's the kid with the bag. And like, how can they really know my abilities or my personality or like the possibilities they can? Because I look at it from my perspective as a director myself.
Yeah.
Like, what would I want? I'd like to know what the possibility, how I can create and mold his talents to fit my vision of my project. So I thought, what's the most creative and useful way I can do that is this way, where they can see who I am, what my capabilities are, and hopefully they'll say, oh, he's really engaging, and he's got this look or this sound in him that fits what I have envisioned for his character. So that's what the original thought was behind that.
So you moved away from it to have so much fun doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, I think everything that I do now, the purpose is it fulfilling me, either creative side or passion side, and then the results of it will attract whatever it will. And so instead of me going like, I want to be a famous YouTuber, it's like, I really just want to have me, and if I can impact 1 or 2 people and help inspire them or entertain them, great. And it's been more than that, which is awesome. But yeah, now comes from a real and a good place versus, I just want to be famous, guys. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, other questions, guys?
I have a comment, not a question. It's sort of a question and a comment.
Sure.
I've been working on a live streaming program now for a little over a year and a half. I have my own talk show. And I kind of wanted to say it because a lot of this room, you guys are all kids. I am a graduate of Windward last year.
Yeah, you are.
From the creative media department and the journalism department. So I'm a success story, you could say, because everything that I'm doing now, as I realize my dreams, came from what I learned here. So I just can't say enough good things about Windward's media department because it's incredible. And what you said about believing in your subject. My subject is I have a platform that is a safe place for survivors of abuse to come and tell their stories, and a place for advocates to come and share important resources. And I just started because I wanted to give people a chance to have a voice. And now in this year and a half, I've had 8 top 5 shows, and our top 5 shows get shown on OC16, which led to a regular host spot on OC16. So now I'm on television, which is just crazy. And I look up when I'm doing my makeup, I think, Lord, you know, I know you have a sense of humor, but you couldn't put me on TV before I turned 60. Come on. Like, you're 40, 50 even, give me a break. But so it's not about what you look like, how old you are. It's about having that dream and having that vision. And like he said, figuring out what it is that you want to say or that you want to do, and then following your dream, and just follow it. Because I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this, and I tell everybody it's a learning curve because I never saw this coming. I mean, I just love creative media. I love theater. I love writing for the paper and all. And then when all this came out, it was I didn't see it coming. And it's just grown and grown and grown. So now I have 2 talk shows. And it's on Think Tech Hawaii, which is a nonprofit live streaming program, internet programming that's been around for about 17 years. And it supports citizen journalism is what it's all about. So there's all kinds of opportunities, everything from tech to legal to energy to any kind of diversification, and then global awareness here in Hawaii. And so it's an amazing program, it's an amazing opportunity that I know I wouldn't have had if it weren't for the building blocks that I got coming here to Denver.
Oh, thanks for saying that. We loved having you in class, you were amazing.
Well, post-stroke, post couple of heart attacks, I'm sure I was a little frustrated.
Nope,
sometimes.
you were wonderful.
So, sure you can remember, come on.
You did great, you did great. Yes, you have a question.
Okay, so like,
Yeah.
so I know you were mainly talking about live streaming, but like earlier you mentioned like your podcast.
Yeah.
And so like, I was wondering on like the technical side of your podcast, like, what do you use for like your lighting and your lights? Cause I know like from like in like camera angles, like you have to have like multiple cameras and like mics to like see the host and the guest and the overall view. So I was just wondering like what kind of like software you use for like your mics and stuff like that.
So just so you know, for my podcast, it's audio only, so we don't have cameras. And the great part about it is that, so I think the strength of our show is that you get the real person. And a lot of them are not comfortable, they're not all performers and whatnot.
Being on film.
Yeah, so if you have the camera, they know, oh, this is being recorded. But the way our podcast is set up, and this relates to your question, is that we use wireless mics, and we plug that into the Zoom H4 recorder. So it's all separate. So they don't see the equipment all around. We don't have like mics here that remind you, oh, this is being documented. They forget because it's just connected here. And what I try to do is keep a real tight communication with them, eye contact and stuff. That I'm also comfortable. We're sitting down and stuff, so that they start feeling comfortable. And every guest has always said, like within a couple minutes, they go, I totally forgot we were recording all this stuff. And that's where I get like these real authentic conversations. So we use Sennheiser wireless mics, and then we give the Zoom H4 to recording to, and then we don't have very specific editing software. My wife, again, we do video content and stuff, so she just uses her Adobe Premiere to edit the audio, and it's very basic editing. Like we have an intro song, and then I record like an intro to explain the show separately, and then she'll like put that in and put in the interview portion, which she'll bleep out any cuss words or cut out awkward pauses, or if there starts the other part. Sometimes the stories can be irrelevant or random, so we'll kind of cut it down and stuff so that it's tight and succinct, and then she'll tack on my outro after and outro song, and that's the episode. And so we use, there's so many different platforms to use to get it out there, but we use Libsyn. It's Liesyn. It's a paid service, and there's different levels, but we use a very basic package, which I think is like $8 a month. And it helps, it's easy because it just like puts it all out, all of it. So we're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, like every kind of podcast medium, like it just shoots it out there for you.
And is it just podcasts? Do they do streaming as well? Or something?
I don't know if they do streaming, but I just, since we only doing audio podcasts, yeah.
Cool, that's awesome, thank you, Nolan, that's great. Any other questions, guys? We have time for one more question, maybe, or two more, go for it.
Oh, sorry. So my first question is, I just started using Castbox, which uses a live streaming for audio podcasting. What do you think about those live streaming audio platforms for different podcasts, like Castbox or whichever ones? I also use Spotify just for sending it out as well.
Yeah. I personally have no experience in that and haven't heard of that. So I was going to tell you I'm going to make up answers if I don't know the answer. I have no response. Sorry.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah.
The other question is, how do you find guests? Like for me,
Yeah.
what I found easy was just networking. So I go to just different businesses and just talk to them, especially food businesses. Like just try out their stuff and then kind of hear a little bit of their story, and then figure out like, wow, this is in line with what I want to talk about or showcase on my podcast and stuff.
I think a great takeaway might be some things that Kat and Shanika brought up earlier today, which is just like, engage with, use social media, engage with people, find out what's going on, right? And that way you're building your network, you're kind of learning who might be really interesting to have on your show and to speak to, right? And so that's always the tricky thing. And yeah, don't be shy, reach out and say hello to people and comment on their things and say, hey, I'm doing this podcast, would you be interested in being a guest? You'd be surprised, a lot of people will say yes, right? Yeah, it's very,
Always have a backup though, because
Yeah.
they canceled like I did yesterday
Yeah.
for tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
I have a backup.
always good, yeah, or even to get our roster right, and then that way if people cancel, you can put in people who are going to be later, earlier, yeah. That's a great way to do it, yeah, of course, you get the right people at the right times. I saw another hand go up back there, no, yes, right there, we'll do you, sir, yeah, go ahead. I'll get you next, we're getting you, yeah, don't worry.
When you said you were live streaming the fight scene,
Yeah.
you said you had like multiple cameramen, a drone, and a GoPro.
Yeah.
And how was like that considered like filming one shot?
Yeah, I mean, we said it was filmed in one shot. It was more like we're just going to film it one afternoon. Yeah, I mean, so I did some false advertising when I launched the Kickstarter video. But yeah, because it wasn't all in one shot. We did have one continuous shot. There were two cinematographers who literally followed us through the entire thing, and their stream was always live. But we quickly realized when we were concepting it that like to have the best finished product for people we were going to need more shots than just one angle, especially for the fight scenes, right? So the trick for the fight scenes is the angles. So if we just have one cinematographer, they would have to be running around to catch the right angles for all these punches and kicks and elbow attacks and headbutts and things, right? And so that would be really tricky. So we decided to bring in other streams and other camera angles for it. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. We lied on our Kickstarter video. Nobody sued us yet, so you could be the first. Yeah. Gentle sir back there. Did you have a question?
Yeah. I stream too. I
Yeah.
stream on weekdays. But as you said, like normally us youngsters or young kids think about like what people care and like what people look like, what you look like in our stream. Like what advice would you guys give out to the people?
Oh wow. Yeah, just don't care so much, right? Like I think it's a big problem, right? Because you guys grew up with social media, right? So there's so much awareness of what you look like because, I don't know, there's some statistic, I'm going to make up statistics now, that you guys have like taken like 2,000 selfies like a year, you know what I mean? Like, so like I've never taken a picture of myself until quite recently, which is quite helpful, I think, in life. Yeah, I don't really know or care what I look like. You know what I mean? Like I wear the same shirt every day, the same shorts every day, and everyone knows people attest, yeah. Really don't worry about it. I'm a weird looking guy. And like I've been told, but occasionally, right? But I've been very successful in life by just not caring that I'm a weird-looking guy. If that makes sense. So I think ultimately the best people you're going to interact with, whether it's in person or online, are going to be people who don't care about that stuff, right? They're going to care about what you have to say, or they're going to care about the projects you're engaging with or the communities you're building, and that's really so much more important than the surface stuff. So I know it's easy advice to give and hard to take, but just let it roll off you. You know what I mean? Like, never let that bother you. I never care. Yeah, it's like almost to a detriment. I really don't care. Yeah, people are like, I hate you. I'm like, wonderful, let's talk about that. You know, like, that's exciting that you hate me, right? So, you know, I think that even before your generation where social media was so prevalent, young people tend to think everyone's looking at them all the time and judging them. It's really not true. And I'll give you a story from my life in the theater that'll help a little bit with that, which is my first job in the theater. I was a production assistant when I was like 14. And so my job was to read with actors who come into the room, right, who were auditioning for roles in equity shows, like big shows that would tour rep houses and stuff, right? So these are accomplished people, and they're going to be paid thousands of dollars a week to tour big shows, right? And they would be so nervous coming in, right? And they all think that they're being judged, whereas I got to sit on the other side of the table as a young kid with the producer, director, playwright, and the last thing they're doing is judging. They really just want to see awesome stuff. That's it, right? None of them are like, oh, who's this one? No one has that response, right? People come in and they go, maybe this is the person, right? They're very hopeful that you're going to be the person they want to cast, right? So like, that's the thing, is like, I also play poker semi-professionally, and so we think everyone who looks at us knows what we're thinking. They really don't. Yeah, I can tell you that. Yeah, I push people off $1,000 hands all the time, and I'm like, I wonder if they have any idea that I'm terrified right now. I guess they don't. You know what I mean? So like, that's the thing, is like, really, we tend to think people are looking at us a lot more than they are, and then we tend to think they're thinking things that they're not thinking. So don't worry about it, yeah? Just be you, and you know, as Nolan was pointing out, be your authentic self, and don't worry about it so much, right? Always be respectful and kind to others, but at the same time, don't worry about their judgment. It's hard. I know you guys are so connected in this day and age. We weren't, and it was helpful. I had no idea I was a goofy looking weird kid, right? So I just did my thing, yeah, and it behooved me in life to not think about that. Great question, I'm glad you asked that, yeah. Don't worry about it, guys. Yeah.
I would say I do care about what people do, which is part of why I'm in therapy so much. I'll just tack onto that, like, it's true. But I think the way, because when I heard that, like a year ago, me was like, how do you do that? How do you not care? Like, I wish I could not care, but the fact is I do care. But what has helped me is that I feel confident in who I am and that I like me, and then I also know who I want to, or who I respect as far as everything. So before, I would take everybody's opinion, no matter if I knew them or not, and I would hear 900 great comments, but if there's that one person who goes, I don't like the way you smile, I would be like, my smile looks good, but instead I go, well, who is it that's saying that, like, do I agree with them and their principles and what they want? Do I want to mold myself towards that kind of person? Just like as if it was real life, it's the friends you keep, right? Like if there's that bully in the school who doesn't like you, it's not like I'm going to do everything I can to like make him like me, because I don't necessarily want to be associated with that person, right? So same thing here in this field. Like it's impossible not to care what people think about you, but think about who it is that you think care about you. And then, but the number one thing is, how do you care about yourself? Right? And so when I look at myself and how I've portrayed myself through podcasts or streaming or act, whatever, if I can feel confident, like, yep, that's me, or that's who I want shown, then if somebody doesn't like it, I'll take it into consideration who said it, consider the source, and if it is helpful to take that feedback, that it can improve me in any way, then I'll take that. But I won't take it as judgment, and that's the final judgment. Like, oh, I'm a terrible actor now, and I'll never get another job. You know, things like that.
Yeah, take an acting class. That's actually a great advice. If you're shy or you're worried about what people think about you, taking a great theater class is a great way to bust out of your shell and like just kind of relax in front of people and care a little less, at least, about what people think, right? What I always say is, you know, I'm an actor. I focus on the work. Yeah, I mean, like, I need to look a certain way for the role I'm playing, and that's all that matters, right? But, you know, like, beyond that, like, it's just the work. Yeah, I mean, so it's work I'm doing, and carpenters don't get nervous when they're hammering nails into boards, and neither should actors when they're performing, right? Do your work. You know what your work is. Just get it done. Yeah, get up there and be awesome. Yeah, so take that away as well. Good stuff, guys.